Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I am Mark Givler, joined, as usual, by Kevin Noon. We are, roughly midway through Southern Swing?
Just about.
But we have arrived in Florida, but we're going to do our Georgia recap. So, not to confuse anyone, Georgia, 5 stops? 4 Monday, 1 Friday.
Yes.
So we stopped at 5 different schools in the greater Atlanta area and learned a lot about certain guys. Kevin, I'm going to give you the low-hanging fruit. What did you learn?
I learned that once again Georgia is loaded and that Ohio State sits in pretty good shape with a couple of guys, and then can keep swinging and keep landing guys from the state of Georgia. Once again, linebackers seem to be in big demand, and it's really shaping up to be I think a pretty good haul for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I learned that Ohio State is the leader for Tyler Atkinson.
I was going to let you go with that because I'm still kind of in disbelief.
Trying to lob it D-Wade to LeBron. I was trying to lob it up for you.
Well, I know, and I like the 35,000 foot view.
But yeah, Tyler Atkinson flat out called Ohio State his leader in our interview. We asked him why. He just said, because they are. He said,
because I said so.
Yes, but he also did add relationships and things like that. But yes, huge news for Ohio State right now. He's going to release his official visit list relatively soon. We don't know yet when Ohio State's on this calendar, but
he wouldn't even confirm they were getting a visit for whatever that is worth.
Right, yeah. I'm highly confident Ohio State's getting an official visit, so we will find out the date of that shortly. But big revelation, because for a kid who doesn't like to give away a lot, he was pretty adamant about giving him that away.
Right. I was a little shocked when he said it. Again, am I surprised that Ohio State could be leading for him? No. Ohio State has done a great job of recruiting him. He got offered the summer leading into his freshman year. Kind of really took camp over by storm just by being there. The fact that he was given the offer. And then it's just been a permanent fixture for us on Southern Swing and the relationships with James Laurinaitis. And I think it's going to be very important for Ohio State to have a big year out of its linebackers, from Sonny Styles, from Arvell Reese, maybe even Peyton Pierce, depending on how they're going to configure some things. Tyler Atkinson said that they're kind of talking to him about kind of like everything when it comes to the position, not really shooing him into one spot or another. But we're talking about a recruitment in the South, and it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah, I do think, take things maybe like just a grain of optimism. Obviously, you want to be optimistic about this. If you're an Ohio State fan, I think Ohio State is very capable of signing Tyler Atkinson, but there is a lot of work left to be done. I do think between the relationship he's developed with James Laurinaitis and just the times he's been to Ohio State, he's been to Ohio State several times over the years, between those things, and I think this is going to line up well for the Buckeyes with Sonny Styles coming into his money year, Arvell Reese technically draft eligible after this coming season. Time flies, but I think they're going to have 2 dynamic linebackers this year, maybe more than they've ever had, in the last decade or so at Ohio State. So that I think is only going to help them. I think a big thing on his official, and he got to start this process already, so it's not like there's been no contact or anything, but I think a big thing on the official will be spending a couple days around Matt Patricia and really just diving into the weeds and getting into things on what exactly Matt Patricia maybe could be cooking up for Tyler Atkinson at the next level. So I think that's going to be a key thing. And again, now I think this video is going to make the rounds that we did with him. Schools, I think, already had an idea that Ohio State was going to be a contender here. That's only going to kind of fuel the drive of these other programs to try and make up the ground. So definitely a ways to go there, but obviously, some of the best news for Ohio State that we've uncovered coming out of this trip.
Yeah, it really... You look at his relationship with Deuce Gerald, who we haven't really talked about yet. You look at a lot of things that are going on there, and it has been a minute since Ohio State has been able to land that huge name linebacker. I mean, obviously, there was excitement around Peyton Pierce. I think in the most recent cycle with Riley Pettijohn, with T.J. Alford, I think there's excitement there, but we haven't seen those two play. We really haven't seen Peyton Pierce play anything. So it's been how long since Laurinaitis was recruited? It's been how long since they've been able to get some of these names? And sometimes when they get them, it takes a while for it to be put together. Justin Hilliard, huge name when he was recruited, but it didn't really click until the end. So I really think that this Tyler Atkinson news is huge, but I think everybody else's NIL collective has just been given their marching orders.
Put on notice.
And I think that Ohio State is able to come at this from a different place. That doesn't mean that they're going to be able to come at it without an NIL component, but Ohio State still is not going to be the school you go to for the biggest NIL offer. I'm convinced of that. Until I hear otherwise, I'm going to die on that hill.
Yeah, I mean, they've been much more in the retention business, or whether it's getting someone out of the portal, and that's proven themselves at the level of a Caleb Downs. So we'll see, but Tyler Atkinson mentioned over and over again, relationships, scheme, development. And if those things are truly going to win out, you have to like Ohio State's chances of possibly pulling this off. And it would be quite a pickup. And like I said, I think what we're seeing now is the return of Ohio State's linebacker room to glory, the return to glory of the OSU linebacker room. I think we're going to see it. I think we started to see it last year for sure. Cody Simon had a great year. Sonny Styles had a breakout year. Arvell Reese, in a way, had a bit of a breakout as well. I think it will continue this year. I think they got a couple of great ones last year, 2 or 3 really good ones last year. So I think what we're seeing now is just kind of this re-emergence of the linebacker position.
Reinvigoration, yes, if you will.
Yes, spearheaded by James Laurinaitis.
Well, and that's the thing. When you bring in James Laurinaitis, when you go and you bring him from Notre Dame and then you elevate him to a position coach, and that really was the thing. When you had Jim Knowles, and I know as you're listening to this, the Jim Knowles interview with Heather Dinich is still fresh in your mind. I'm not here to talk bad about Jim Knowles, but he was just not a great recruiter. So I think when you bring in somebody who, all right, the little animal isn't as big as he was when he played in the NFL or certainly at Ohio State, but he still looks like he could get out there and throw some bodies around. And I think that when you have that young, dynamic recruiter for a reason, and I think that with all of that, that is all feeding into these touch points that Tyler Atkinson is looking for.
No question. So, again, really big news. We'll see how the next couple months play out. He's not giving away anything on time frame. So whether it's this summer, whether it's this winter, either way, it probably doesn't matter. It's really when these kids sign at this point, and he'll be signing somewhere in December. Like no one's gonna stop recruiting him if he commits somewhere in July. Like if Ohio State doesn't get him in July and he goes somewhere else, Ohio State's not going to stop recruiting him. If Ohio State gets the commitment in July, the other schools aren't going to stop recruiting him. So it's one of those things you just have to kind of monitor this the whole way to the finish line. But really good news. You can't be any better than first right now. You can't. There's nothing else you can do other than lead right now. You can't sign
him at this point.
So
and I'm going to even say this. Even if he does commit to Ohio State in July or August or whenever, if you are delicate about recruiting, this may not be the recruitment for you, because I'm not saying that Tyler Atkinson's going to play games. I just think that there is going to be a giant cloud of subterfuge out there with everybody saying, and I'm not taking this against the industry, but is Tyler Atkinson slipping away? I fully predict just a lot of fake news about this one coming out one way or the other. So if you get a little squeamish on recruiting, let me tell you about, Simeon Caldwell. I think that one is going to be much more smooth, and that's a Florida guy, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but just looking for somebody I feel is a little safer.
We are at bowl school. We're about to talk to Simeon here in a few minutes, so we'll look for that the next day or so on BuckeyeHuddle.com. But yeah, I don't think Atkinson's a game player. I think he's been pretty deliberate about how he's handled things. But, there's going to be stuff. There was stuff with Jeremiah Smith. There was stuff with Chris Henry Jr. These guys they move the needle in terms of clicks, and so we've seen some weird stuff run over the years with certain guys, and yeah, I don't suspect this thing will go quietly until December.
Quietly into the night.
Yes. All right.
That's one.
That was one. That was the one. I think that was the biggest news we've had.
That was the big one.
That was the biggest news we've had this trip so far. So we had to kind of spend some time on that. But we started off our Georgia swing with Deuce Gerald, one of our favorite kids to cover, and great player, position of need for Ohio State. He would not come right out and say Ohio State leads, but that's our impression from talking to him, talking to people around that recruitment. And, that one looks very good as well for Ohio State right now.
Deuce Gerald's another player that we have been seeing for years and years and years. And honestly, he acts like, oh, I forgot you guys were coming. And then he has an Ohio State shirt on, and Ohio State gloves, and Ohio State shoelaces. Maybe not the shoelaces, but he really enjoys the process. And people, again, using the term game player, mistake that for a game player. No, that's just somebody who's having fun with the process. And, Ohio State has done a great job with Deuce, making sure that the love is there, because, I think he's a player that really wants to feel comfortable, wants to feel home. And Ohio State, when it comes to that, when that is one of the top asks from a player, Ohio State really does a good job with home/culture/ whatever. That's their calling card. So, yeah, I think things are progressing nicely.
Yeah, and almost a 4-year relationship now with Larry Johnson. That's been big. Ryan Day has continued to get involved when needed there. The relationship with Tyler Atkinson is going to be interesting here. I don't know. Tyler kind of tossed that aside when talking about his decision, but if Deuce decides early, like he said, not early, but in the summer, like he says he's going to, he says he's going to try and decide after his official visits. Probably he's looking at August 2nd. That's not official, but he's eyeing that as a potential decision date. If they would be able to get him in there, I think he would immediately change the discussions with Tyler Atkinson from, hey, buddy, how you doing? And what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And how's life? I think there would be some Ohio State conversations that start to develop there as well. But, yeah, I just continue to get a great vibe from Deuce when it comes to Ohio State, when it comes to his relationships with the Buckeyes. And someone at the school told me while we were there, just said, Deuce has really just fallen in love with that place. And his dad played at Ole Miss. I think that's probably the team that maybe would be the biggest threat at this point. He's got LSU in there. Was it Oregon? I think is the.
I think so. A lot of people
have thrown.
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
So, those are the 4 scheduled, and so we'll see. But I've been very confident that Ohio State's going to get Deuce Gerald's, and that's still where I'm at right now after meeting with him again.
I was asked on my Big Me kickoff on. What day of the week is it? Wednesday? Is it? I don't even know what day of the week it is. Tuesday? Who I felt most confident from Georgia was going to end up in the Ohio State class. And I said Deuce Gerald. And then I turned around and changed it and posted it in my notes. So be sure to check out my notes for Big Me Kickoff. But I think that it's really in the right direction. Off the record, I spoke to one of them about the conversations that they have, and it's really not about recruitment. But to Mark's point, I think if one of them commits to Ohio State before the other, I think we're going to see the geometry change a little bit there. And could I see a situation where Ohio State gets one and not the other? Certainly, but I think it's much more likely of all the scenarios. I think the one that is most likely to me as it stands right now on the 6th of May, I do know that much, that Ohio State's going to get both of them. Would I have said that a week ago? I don't know. Yeah. I probably not.
If signing day was tomorrow, I think both would sign with Ohio State. And yeah, I don't think I would have said that 2 weeks ago. I would have said it about Deuce. I don't know if I probably would have taken the field against Ohio State for Atkinson, but I think Georgia, obviously, with Atkinson's not going to go down without a fight, and Ole Miss, his father's alma mater, is certainly not going to go down without a fight. But I think they've got such a built-in advantage on the relationships with those two guys right now that they're going to make it tough on these other programs. Another guy that probably should be talked about a little bit more, at least, Carson Baker. Top 250 running back, 4-star running back, Langston Hughes, Jelani Thurman School, former Ohio State quarterback Aaron Nolan School. He's very high on the Buckeyes as well. He's got a really good relationship with Carlos Lachlan. He came to camp last summer, earned the offer. Things have kind of been on the upswing ever since. He's probably going to decide this summer, probably in July after his officials. He's taking his official to Ohio State in June. Kevin, what's your vibe there? There's a lot of balls in the air right now at running back. Like it's hard to kind of figure this out because there's going to be a game of dominoes that's going to have to take place, and with guys, one decision could affect another decision, etc. But how are you feeling about Carson Baker coming out of that conversation?
I feel like a broken record, and Ohio State for this guy and Ohio State for that guy. I mean, somewhere you're not going to get one. And I think that some of those are in other states. I mean, again, we're very targeted in the players that we talk to. I mean, we could spend weeks in every state and never come back to Ohio, and there would be all sorts of issues and disconnections of utilities. So we can't do that. But yeah, I like Ohio State's chances there too. I mean, Ohio State taking 2 backs? I mean, are they going to find a way to try and take 3? I mean, they took 3 in this last cycle. I mean, it's harder to imagine how they take 3 here. I mean, do they get to a point of where it's like, okay, you 3, first one in is in, or whatever? I don't know, but there's been no shortage of interest from Ohio State in Carson. So it would seem to me that Ohio State probably wouldn't put an ultimatum out at least until September 1 or something like that. I don't know. Are they holding anybody off to see what happens elsewhere? I don't know, but when we spoke to Carson, I don't even remember if we did this on camera or off camera, just his conversations with Jelani. And, I think a lot of people might assume that Jelani, who's not playing a ton, might be a little negative toward things. That is not the impression we were given by Carson. Carson says that Jelani may be like the biggest ambassador for Ohio State.
Yeah, if he's upset, if feathers were ruffled by Max Clare's addition, Jelani isn't telling anyone, that's for sure. He was very complimentary of Ohio State during Carson's spring visit to Columbus, and continues to push the Buckeyes there. Carson made mention that Jelani caught a couple touchdown passes in practice that he was at, so there's a little nugget that he dropped on everyone. So I like where they stand. They're not holding off anyone right now. They're not holding off Favor Key. I still like Derek Cooper is still kind of the elephant in the room of like, how long do you wait on that? Do you pull the ripcord if it feels like you're slipping? And we're going to talk to Derek here this week, so we're going to get a good feel for that one, where it kind of stands now. But I know that's the guy that they have really just kind of been in love with. But they really like Favor Key. They really like Carson Baker. A couple other guys I really like as well.
Hyder, yeah.
Savion Hyder is another one. I think you're onto something with the first. The first one I think is in, and then they got to really start thinking about things. About, okay, are we waiting for Derek Cooper? Do we go to somebody and say in or out? We need to know, like, how. I think that's going to be the key, is how they navigate that once they have one. I do think they're going to get 2. I don't think they're going to even try. I don't know if they even try to take 3, to be honest with you. I don't know that, let's just throw a hypothetical out there. Let's say they could get a Key and Baker to commit by the end of July. I don't know that it would behoove them at that point to continue the Derek Cooper sweepstakes if they're still in it, when it may run one of the others off, and that's like, okay, what did you really gain by doing that? I don't know. So that's going to be, there's a lot of tough kind of first world problems that Carlos Loughlin's going to have to deal with, I think, this summer with running backs. But again, I think they're well positioned to get 2 really good ones, and I think that's really all that matters at the end of the day. So we can sit here and try and guess which 2 of the 4 it's going to be, and probably be wrong on at least one of them. But I just think they're in a great position to get 2 good ones.
And remember, this is Loughlin's first class. I mean, everybody will say, well, last year he came in midway through. I mean, Bo Jackson was already there. I mean, he was there in terms of a target, but they moved away from Marquise Davis. They go and they go to Pennsylvania, get it back there, and then they get in late on Turbo Rogers. But this is one where I think it's been more full evaluations. So it'll be very curious, because we always talk about a coach when it's his first cycle to go through things, whether it's a head coach overall or a position coach just for his position. So this is one of the ones that I'm sneaky watching closer than maybe I'm letting on.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting thing to watch this summer, when it's it's going to be some interesting decisions, and see who they stay in with, see if they start to maybe put a little heat on some guys. that they want a decision from. But we could see Favor Key off the board here this month.
And then what? I mean, and he's the local guy.
Yeah,
he's the local guy.
Then it comes. Yeah, then I just think again they maybe they let the officials play out in June and kind of if someone pops on the official like hey. You took the spot, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be fun to watch here the next couple months, that position specifically, as we see some other positions kind of closing themselves out, like wide receiver and some other, they're getting kind of down to it at just a couple different spots. But,
right.
This will be one that I think we're watching quite a bit over the summer. KJ Green. We have met with arguably the three best junior defensive ends in the country already. Certainly three of the top handful of junior defensive ends in the country. KJ Green, Stone Mountain Stevenson was one of them. I got a great vibe from KJ, not just as a great interview, but I got a great vibe from him and the kind of people around him on Ohio State.
I look there and I'm just like, well, I'm going to have to say no on somebody as long as Mark doesn't say P.J. Dean. I mean, as we're kind of going through this, and then we have a 28 to talk about, or 27 to talk about as well, so I have more time to waffle on that one. But, yeah, I think that everything that K.J. Green said about Ohio State was very positive. I think that the things that we kind of heard off camera from people were all positive as well. I think you run into the same issues that you run into all the time. Larry's old. When's he going to retire? There are programs recruiting against Ohio State. Not only is Larry going to retire, I mean, Larry's not long for this earth. I mean, it's just terrible, awful stuff. And again, I'm going back more to a Thad Matta type of story about somebody saying that Thad Matta that Thad Matta was like going to die or something. But this is a position where Ohio State is not full up. This is not receiver. This is not what running back could be very quickly. So we're not playing a numbers game at this point. The visit's going to be so important. Again, I always look at players in Georgia and in Florida and say, okay, well, you got to look at the long game and everything else here, but why not Ohio State? Now, if you put my feet to the fire, am I going to say Ohio State? I'm just going to play the law of averages and say I'm going to take the field, but I don't know if I'm necessarily full of conviction on that.
Yeah. I think this is one that Ohio State's going to be in. He made the effort to get up there in March, was super impressed by their championship run. I've been telling everyone who will listen, 27 is going to be the year they really get the championship bounce. He said he watched the championship. He said he had to get up there. He got up there in March, got the offer in person. I know there's people around him that are very impressed by Larry Johnson as well, not just KJ. And then, just what they're doing on the field. And again, they're going to be able to sell a depth chart for these 2027 kids that is very appealing. Like, yes, they just lost their two defensive ends. They're going to lose their two defensive ends again this year. They're going to, Caden Curry's going to be gone, and Kenyatta Jackson's going to be like, there's going to be this huge opportunity for 2027s, which gives me some optimism when we talk to some of these kids, like a Chris Whitehead, like a KJ Green, of like, they're talking really high about Ohio State now. What happens in 6 months? I think in 6 months, the depth chart becomes even more clear to them.
Bo Atkinson will be at the end of the line. I mean, where's Logan George stand on the line?
CJ Hicks, as a speed rusher, I think things clear up even better for Ohio State in 6 to 8 months. So we'll see, but good start with KJ Green, very good start, very talented kid, big-time player. So that was a good one. And then we wrapped up DJ Jacobs.
Well, we haven't talked about PJ Dean. Was he in North Carolina?
No, North Carolina.
See, I don't even know.
We talked about PJ on the North Carolina.
That was 2 states ago.
Yes, that was 2 states ago. DJ Jacobs, Blessed Trinity.
Oh, wow.
By the way, go watch our PJ Dean interview. That was he was phenomenal. But DJ Jacobs, Blessed Trinity, same high school as Steel Chambers, 2027 defensive end. Again, he was the third guy. I said when I mentioned we had three of maybe the top 4, 5, 6 defensive ends in the country in 27. DJ Jacobs, offered by Ohio State. Ryan Day made it a point to go down there in February to go to the school. Ryan Day doesn't hit every school in February, I can promise you that. So this was pretty calculated. He's got a younger brother, Dawson, who's going to be a big-time player in 28 as well. Kevin, this is one, I've kind of been optimistic on this show. This one, they got some work to do. They got to get him on campus. They got some ground to make up.
Yeah, I mean, very impressive kid. I mean, he's going to win the interview day one. I mean, I love that type of player. But yeah, he goes to a Catholic school. I mean, he's like, I'm not Catholic. I'm Christian. I'm not Catholic. So, people are going to immediately try and pencil him into Notre Dame. I don't know if it's going to be Notre Dame. He's going to be 100% a national type of recruit. I mean, he will go everywhere from USC all the way to Syracuse down to Miami up to Washington. I mean, he could be anywhere, but his coach couldn't say enough great things about him during the pre-interview. I mean, he's just... And his brother. I mean, he's just one of these athletic freaks. And, one thing that I will say that I think really resonated with him that didn't make the interview, though, I mean, as we were talking kind of about faith, is the fact that Ohio State in his championship rings on the inside had the cross in there. And he's like, I found that to be really cool. And... while maybe some of the leaders of the Faith Revival, Trevion Henderson, Emeka Egbuka, have moved on to the National Football League, that kind of stuff doesn't just exit the program with a couple of people. So I think that that's going to be something that is going to be important to him because, you could just tell that it was not lip service from him.
Yeah, and again, his dad played at Georgia. His dad signed with Georgia out of high school. Did have kind of injuries derail his career at Georgia a little bit, but so there's more familiarity with Georgia at this point. There's more familiarity with Notre Dame at this point. He was able to go up there and see Marcus Freeman and talk to him, and so he's got a little bit more frame of reference there than he does with Ohio State right now. So that's just one right now where I'm like, okay, they've got his attention. He's interested in getting up there. He's talked about getting up there in the summer for a camp. If not, maybe getting to like the Texas game in August. That's got to happen before we start, getting too optimistic about that one. But that's a guy that Ryan Day, again, went and personally checked in on in February, and that's one that I think Ohio State's going to do the best they can to get into that.
Just expect, even with it probably being a noon game, expect Ohio State, Texas to have a who's who list of recruits. Everybody has said they wanted to try and make it to that game. And one thing that, you won't be able to see in the video is really impressed with Blessed Trinity's head coach. He was a former coach at Buford. I think that if you go and you look in the dictionary for high school football head coach, he was one of those types of guys, really impressive. And he said that he's gotten just more than Dawson Jacobs as well in 28. It looks like that Blessed Trinity is going to be a program back on the rise with some of the kids that are in that program.
Yeah, definitely. And a new coach. He's only been there a few years. He did not coach Steele in high school, so we got to meet the new. Not the new. He's been there a few years, but they're newer.
New to us.
Yeah, new to us head coach, and so that was a great conversation as well. So, and then that wrapped up our Georgia swing. We drove 5.5 hours to Jacksonville after all that. And now we're here.
We made it here, and we'll be on the hop here in Florida for the next couple of days, and you'll get another wrap up here on the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast. So a lot of excitement while we're on the road. Berm is handling things back in Ohio, so you want to make sure you check all of that out on Buckeye Huddle, as well as he has been cranking out content left and right.
Yep, Berm's been a great addition to our staff already. It's just the first few days, and it's like a whole new world over at BuckeyeHuddle.com with what we've got going right now. So we're very excited about that. He's been churning out some great content while we're getting stuff down here in the South. So if you're not on BuckeyeHuddle.com yet, why not? Just $12.99 for your first month. Give it a shot. You've blown more on bad pizza, so just give us a shot. You will not be disappointed.
That pizza in San Antonio.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's not even worth $2.99. But yes, we are very confident in the product we're offering right now. So please check us out over there if you're not already, and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well if you're not. That helps us out a lot and gets us to reach more Ohio State fans. But that'll do it for this one. We got a couple of Ohio State commits to go talk to here, so we'll get those interviews up as well. But appreciate everyone watching and listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.